It's difficult to discuss the newly released Elton John biopic Rocketman without at least mentioning last year's successful and yet divisive Queen biopic Bohemian Rhapsody. Both films are about widely popular musicians in the 60s through the 80s who found massive success in stadium concerts. Both stories involve an eccentric bandleader who is secretly gay and have drug addictions among other problems. Bohemian Rhapsody had the problem of being a woefully generic music biopic, taking a revolutionary and influential band like Queen and reducing their lives into a standard story that has been seen thousands of times before. At times it also changed historical events in offensive ways just to fit the square peg of a story into a circular hole. It was also plagued by production issues, including a Predator director who was so unprofessional that he was fired, but his name remains in the film due to union laws. In the case of Rocketman, director Dexter Fletching has taken the familiar music biopic tropes and found a new and uniquely flamboyant way to present them by making the story of Elton John's rise to fame and battle with addiction into a fantastical musical. While still falling into the same trappings as other music biopics, Rocketman does a good job at recreating the spectacle of an Elton John concert, all while presenting an empathetic story powered by an excellent main performance from Taron Egerton. Rocketman details Elton's life from his first interest in music to his explosive success in the 70s, detailing his struggles with identity and various addictions. Throughout the film, Elton's life is presented like a musical, where the emotional climaxes and character developments are represented by lavish performances of his songs, complete with dance routines and spectacular imagery. This is one of my favorite elements of the film, as it actually helps to spice up the biopic tropes. Instead of relying on montages to show the passage of time, these musical numbers are used to efficiently and effectively show Elton's state of mind and how he changes throughout the film. In one sequence where Elton's manager and lover, John Reid, shows him the pleasures in living an expensive and extravagant lifestyle, the two perform Honky Cat while moving through a set straight from a 50s musical. This sequence not only shows how Elton develops his addiction to shopping and partying, but it also intelligently incorporates his music into the film. That last part is what sells Rocketman's musical aspect. Each song is intelligently chosen and geniusly utilized. Rarely do they simply perform the songs. Most of the time they are changed in tempo, instrumentation, even tone in order to fit a scene. Unlike jukebox musicals like Moulin Rouge, the songs make sense in the context of the film and don't feel shoehorned in. And unlike other biopics, the songs rarely feel unimportant or implemented simply for fan service. They are the lifeblood of the film. These sequences are also visually stunning, with styles that vary from Broadway camp to concert spectacle. Some are done in one take, others are full of special effects, but some of the best ones are when the characters are simply singing to each other, heightening the reality of the situation. In one sequence, Elton's family sings I Want Love. There are no flashy visuals, just four people singing about their inner desires for love and how none of them can fully provide it. The other element that makes these musical numbers excel is Taron Egerton as Elton John. He not only looks the part but can act and sing it too. He captures Elton's voice without sounding like a direct copy, giving him a chance to use his own voice to enhance the acting in these scenes. Outside the singing, Egerton carries the film with his performance, serving as the heart and soul of the film. This isn't to say the other actors are bad, far from it, but Egerton is able to express so much through his face and mannerisms that it sells many of the emotional moments, even if some of them happen a bit too quickly. Where Rocketman falters a bit is in the pacing. While the musical sequences do a good job of developing Elton and showing how his relationships and issues develop, the film can't escape the pacing problem of condensing a person's life into 2 hours. Admittedly, Fletching and company made the smart move and focused only on Elton's childhood to his recovery in the 80s, giving a clear character arc rather than a history lesson. Yet it still feels like certain moments are rushed or forgotten entirely. They dedicate an entire song to the moment when Elton meets his wife, Brunette Blowell, yet after a couple of scenes together, Elton simply sums up their marriage in a few sentences and she's soon forgotten. I'm not saying we needed another 30 minutes to develop their relationship, but it does feel kind of useless to include her so far into the movie, especially since we've already seen so many of the issues Elton has and how it affects his family and friends. It feels like she's there simply to cover all their bases, something on a list to check off in the Elton John story. While Elton himself is a rounded character, the same can't be said for the supporting cast. Elton's mother and father rarely change throughout the film, always putting him down or dissuading him from achieving his goals. His songwriter and friend Bernie Taupin is always the nice, supportive friend, and Elton's manager, John Reed, is a cold-hearted abuser. This isn't to say that these people weren't predominantly like that in real life, but within the film they feel flat, especially in comparison to the enigmatic Elton, who hosts a wide range of emotions. Despite these issues, I still say Rocketman is one of the better music biopics and a great time in general. Not only is it fun to see Elton's music performed in new and interesting ways, but the themes and intentions of the film are admirable. It's surprising and exciting to see a wide-release film feature an openly gay character and features homosexual relationships in standard, positive ways, not demonizing gay culture or gay people. Again, comparing this to Bohemian Rhapsody, that film poorly represents Freddie Mercury's homosexuality, treating it not as a struggle but as something that was a key factor in his fall from grace. It's also a small part of the film, which in general doesn't feel like an authentic retelling of the story of Mercury and Queen, but instead like an insincere love letter to the fans that doesn't want to explore these people but instead wants to appeal to the most basic of audience desires. Rocketman clearly loves Elton John. It doesn't just love his music or his persona, but Elton as a person. That's why the film isn't about his career, but about his road to recovery. This is why Elton's struggle with not only his secret homosexual relationships, but also his struggles with identity and acceptance is shown with such sympathy and care. It's a true celebration of Elton, warts and all. Of course, the film could be lying about many of the details, as these films often change the timeline. But as a narrative, it works more often than it doesn't. I simply have to admire Rocketman, not only as an entertaining and empathetic film, but also as an example of how to tell a person's story right, how to do it justice while not shying away from the problems.